So we are recording. And Bernadette Nestor, back again. Lovely to have you here, Bernadette. Okay. I'll just say again for the people who've just come on, if you squiggle your cursor at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a chat icon. Click on that and a chat column will come up at the side of the screen. If you have questions during this talk, put them in and I'll answer as many questions as I can at the end. We'll have at least 20 minutes at the end for question answering. Oh, Livia, your husband knows the lovely Petrina. That's fabulous. It's a small world, isn't it? 6 degrees of separation. Yes, so if you can put questions in as you go along, or you can leave them till the end, and I will get as many answered as I possibly can. If I don't answer your question, I will answer it during next week in some way, but we'll get them all answered. All right. So we're going to talk about anxiety, depression, and PTSD resolved in 3 sessions. Is it possible? I'd like to report that yes, it is. I'm Judith Richards. I better tell you who I am. I'm Judith Richards. I'm the creator of the Richards Trauma Process, or TRTP. TRTP, I've been teaching TRTP for the last 6 years. We have several hundred practitioners around Australia and in various other countries. And the results that the practitioners are experiencing with their clients are nothing short of extraordinary. But let's begin with just a couple of obvious things. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. It's in the name. It's about trauma, isn't it? It's obvious. There have been studies done with twins going to war. One will come back with PTSD and one won't. Why that? We'll park that for the moment and we'll come back to that. Let's go on and talk about anxiety. What's behind anxiety? I know that lots of people here will have been through anxiety. I certainly have. And what does it feel like? What sits behind anxiety is the whole being screaming, I'm not safe. And of course, it's a spectrum, isn't it? From mild to extreme to PTSD, which is an anxiety disorder. So why do we go into that state of feeling I'm not safe? In order to understand that, we need to look at some physiology. So I'm going to share screen and I'm going to do some drawing, so bear with me. I am not the best drawer, especially on screen, but I have something that I prepared a little earlier. Just a second, share screen. Just give me a sec here. Share screen. Here we go. A whiteboard should appear on your screen. There we go. Now here's something I prepared earlier. Let's talk about what happens with a normal person, if such a being exists. What I mean by a normal person is somebody who's not experiencing depression or anxiety. So they're here at calm. They have a distressing event. Let's talk about that. We're going to use the phrase distressing events because if we talk about trauma, a lot of people, their vision narrows and they only see trauma in relation to war, refugees, torture, etc. So let's replace the word trauma with the phrase distressing event, because then that keeps the focus wider It's more encompassing and it's more real. So this normal person goes along and they have a distressing event, so they release stress hormones. The event passes, and this is the important bit. Without doing anything, the body returns to calm. It's an extraordinary body that we have. They go up here to fight, flight, freeze. They have a life-threatening event. They go up here to fight, flight, freeze. The event passes and the body just takes itself back down. It's extraordinary, isn't it? It's miraculous. So without going and sitting on a mountain and doing a yoga retreat for three weeks, the body in a very short time comes back to calm. And that is how a normal being functions. Someone who's not stuck in anxiety or depressive states. Let's look now at what happens with some people. Let's talk about PTSD. What happens is this switch here, it just stays off. The being, the body never comes back from fight, flight, freeze. It's stuck up there, triggering, re-triggering all the time. And of course, PTSD itself is a spectrum, isn't it? From extreme over the top PTSD to milder forms. It's a spectrum. Let's do a different color. What's happening here with this person who's stuck up here in PTSD is the whole being is screaming, I'm not safe. And for those of us who've been there, we know it well. I'm not safe. Something terrible is about to happen. I'm in danger now. What we need to do is return this person from I'm not safe, get this recalibration switch turned back on to bring them from up here in that heightened state of fight, flight, freeze to it's over. And I'm safe now. The top trauma specialists, Levine, Van der Kolk, all agree that the body has to know to bring somebody from up here to down, from I'm not safe to it's over and I'm safe now, so that this recalibration switch is back on and the body brings itself down, the whole being brings itself down to it's over and I'm safe now. Levine, Van der Kolk, they all agree that the body has to know it's over. The body has to know it's over. And I go further and I say the body has to know it's over and I'm safe now. So let's just talk about that for a moment. What's the difference? It's over is a very cerebral statement. It happens in our intellect. It's over. We can know. We know it's over. But I'm safe now is a feeling in the body. It's a feeling in the emotions. Let's just do a little experiment here, if you're up for it. I'm going to stop share and hopefully I'll be able to come back to it. So say with me, and if you're in a situation in an office or somewhere where you can't speak out loud, don't worry, just do it in your imagination. But say after me in a moment, it's over. and just observe what happens in your body. Observe what happens in your being. You ready? It's over. And just observe what goes on. Let's do it again. You ready? I'll say it, then you say it. It's over. And say it from your guts. Let's do it once more. From your guts. And observe what goes on internally. It's over. Good. And now I'm going to say it's over and I'm safe now. And then you say it after me. Say it from your guts and observe what goes on internally. You ready? It's over and I'm safe now. Feel it. It feels good, doesn't it? Let's do it again. It's over and I'm safe now. Once more with feeling. It's over and I'm safe now. Do you get the sense of it? It's over is up here and I'm safe now is, and it's resolution. And there's something very special in that. And so what we need to do with our clients, and I'll try and share screen again. See if this whiteboard picture is still there. Here we go. Ah, yes, it's still there. It's quite a drawing, isn't it? So we need to bring our clients from I'm not safe to it's over and I'm safe now. And that's pretty obvious for in PTSD. But what's behind anxiety is the same thing. It's just not as extreme. It's a spectrum, isn't it? And so we have, high people with high anxiety states peaking with panic attacks. We have people with garden variety anxiety that goes from low up to high sometimes. And it's sad that I'm saying garden variety, and I'm sorry about that, but unfortunately, it's epidemic, isn't it? It's just about everybody has anxiety. And it's a spectrum. Anxiety, it's a spectrum from mild to the extreme states of extreme PTSD. So anxiety is when the person is stuck in the hyperaroused state of fight and flight. So the heart rate is faster, breathing is faster and more shallow, blood pressure is up, metabolism is up, everything is hyper-aroused. Let's look then at what happens with depression. Depression is the freeze state. Everything slows down. The heart rate is slower. Everything is slower. You, like me, have probably had some clients where you wonder, are they still breathing? How is it that they're able to breathe in such a shut down state? And of course, depression, it's a spectrum as well. And it is caused by the very same thing. This state of I'm not safe. Some people's systems will go to the hyperaroused state of anxiety, and some people will go to the shutdown freeze state of depression. And some will fluctuate between the two. So that diagram is clear as mud, isn't it? I am just going to clear this drawing and stop sharing screen. So the depression, the anxiety, the PTSD, I mean, it's obvious with PTSD, but not so obvious with anxiety and depression. The states of of anxiety and depression, what's behind them? That feeling of I'm not safe. With anxiety, something bad's about to happen. I'm not safe. Something bad's about to happen. So I'm catastrophizing. I'm getting ready for every possible outcome. I'm ready so that I'm safe, etc. But what's behind I'm not safe? The I'm not safe of hyperaroused anxiety or shutdown depression. It's dreadfulness that's happened that hasn't been stored properly in memory, and the door's shut, and well, that's over. What happens instead? Well, let's just talk about what happens when we have a distressing event. Okay, so you've got an 8-year-old, for example, who's in the middle of a distressing event. It begins, what happens? The amygdala, the emergency services in the brain, goes off. The alarms go off. Adrenaline, cortisol is released, rushes through the body. The first thing that happens is all the systems that are not required for survival get shut down. The gut, the frontal lobe, because we don't have to have breakfast. We don't have to do higher maths when we're running from a tiger. So it gets shut down. Everything that we don't need gets shut down. What also can be shut down is the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for long-term memory. And so once the event is over, that hippocampus is very important. If it stays shut down, as it does in some people, if it stays shut down, what happens is that that event, instead of being stored in long-term memory and the door closed and well, that's over, instead of that, it gets stored in the subconscious, like a videotape loop. It's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now. And our body and our subconscious, our subconscious runs the body. It runs every electrical response, every chemical activity. And what happens is the body is responding as if that's happening now, it's happening now. And that's where that feeling comes from. I'm not safe. Because in the subconscious, you know, you say tomato, I say tomato, subconscious, unconscious, it doesn't matter. Because in the subconscious, these videos are going all the time and the body is responding to that because the subconscious runs the body. So that is why I have that feeling I'm not safe. I'm going to share screen again and do another lovely drawing for you. So what happens is we can be 3 years old and we have a distressing event and the hippocampus can get shut down at this time and it doesn't put that event in long-term memory. Instead, it stores it in the subconscious as a videotape loop. It's happening now. And then there'll be another one later on, a few years later, and then another one at 9, and then another one at 12, and another one at 32, a smaller one, and 27 and 26. And what happens is that the distress, the pressure builds up like the pressure in a balloon. And it gets to the point where we blow out. You can only put so much pressure on an organism for so long. And it gets to the point where it blows out. And what happens? Some people blow out into freeze, the freeze shutdown state of depression. Some people blow out into the hyperaroused state, fight flight of anxiety. Some people go into chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. Van der Kolk talks about the connection between trauma and these immune problems. Some people will go into other disease states, more serious disease states, but something has to give. So the anxiety, the depression, and obviously the PTSD is not the issue. And the feeling of I'm not safe is not the issue. What is the issue is the cause of that feeling of I'm not safe. It's these videotape loops. So what do we do in order to take somebody from I'm not safe to it's over and I'm safe now? What do? It's quite simple. We simply turn off these videotape loops. And we don't have to turn off every one. It's like a 4-legged table. You take a leg out and the whole thing crashes. These all get turned off automatically without even being dealt with. So that's what we do in TRTP. We deal with the top 3 to 4 most distressing events and the others just turn off. And the symptoms of anxiety, depression, OCD, PTSD, etc., simply cease. And we watch some of our clients, so for example, with extreme PTSD, with the Parkinson's-like tremor of that, the tremor stops and it doesn't come back. The nightmares stop. All the symptoms disappear. The PTSD itself disappears. The anxiety, the panic attacks, the depressive states. What are some of the other outcomes that we've seen with all our practitioners? Well, there was a psychiatrist in a major psych hospital in Australia, and he rang me a little while ago and said, my name's Dr. So-and-so. I run the trauma unit at such and such hospital. I'm a PTSD expert. I'm published. I'm a name. I present at PTSD conferences internationally. I'm supposed to know what I'm doing. And I've been working with this one patient for 9 years, seeing him every fortnight. He has complex PTSD. I hospitalize him half the time to keep him alive. And I'm ringing you because this man has just left my rooms after our normal fortnightly appointment. It's been 2 weeks since I last saw him. And in that 2 weeks, he's been to one of your students, not even a graduate, a student, has had your 3 sessions and is now completely PTSD free. And if I didn't see it with my own eyes, if I didn't know this man so well that I know what he has for breakfast every day, I'd say it's fraudulent. It's not true. Because what I have just witnessed is a miracle and it's impossible. But I have seen it with my own eyes. I obviously don't know what I'm doing and I better come and learn. And it's like a DID patient who had over 100 personalities. And at the end of the second session, we didn't, and the practitioner, psychotherapist, didn't deal with each personality, just dealt with the man and the trauma, the distressing events of his past. And it was extreme, as it always is with dissociative identity disorder. At the end of the second session, the spokesperson for the personality said to the client, Jim, it's over and we're safe now. And it's over and you're safe now. And we're fine. And you are too. And it's going to be okay. You've got this. It's going to be good. So you don't need to hear from us anymore. That was about 12 months ago. We're waiting 18 months to 2 years before we publish that. But these are the types of results that people get with TRTP. And are they long lasting? Yes. Yes, they are. I've followed some clients for 8 years. I used to specialize in violent, angry men brought against their will. You're the ones you read about in the paper. So they will have been, like, I'm thinking of one gentleman who was pulled off strangling his wife that morning. He came to me in the afternoon. He was brought against his will by the men in his family. He'd been pulled off strangling his wife in the morning. He was hell-bent on killing her, the children, and the new boyfriend. He smashed every window in her house, every panel in her car, and then broke her guitar over his head. And within a couple of hours, he was safe and everybody in his world was safe. And that's extraordinary. And I followed these men for 8 years. That man, had been on a disability pension, and now, that was on a Monday. By Friday, he was back at work. He also had a chronic pain issue. He'd broken his neck 4 times. 4 times. That's a bit of a pattern, isn't it? And so he had very little movement in his torso. But by the end of our sessions, he also had full movement in his torso and no pain. And so that was on a Monday. By the Friday, he was back at work as a panel beater. And I've followed that man for 8 years and he gets better and better. And he has not had an angry outburst since. Why? Because those videotape loops are dealt with. They're turned off. These are the results. It's not because he's trying not to be angry. It's not because he's using anger management processes. No, it's just the anger is no longer there. So that's what we do in TRTP. It's a 3-session process. In the first session, and I'll just share the screen again, if it will let me. Here we go. I'll clear that, clear my drawings. It's a 3-session process. The sessions are up to 2 hours long. So it's 6 hours. You can use it in the therapeutic hour because the sessions are in 2 parts. You just do one part on Monday, and the second part of session 1 on Tuesday. And the next week, session 2, half on Monday, half on Tuesday. As long as they're on alternate, on the day after, you'll be fine. So in the first session, what do? We get the subconscious and the conscious to agree. We change the subconscious core beliefs. Even before we're born, we take on ideas of who we are and if we're safe and if we're loved. And then we're born, and for some people, that's a life-threatening experience. And up until the time of about the age of about 7, we're taking on ideas that become the foundation of our life. And these foundational core beliefs run everything. It runs who we're attracted to, who is attracted to us. I had the subconscious core beliefs of I deserve to suffer and I deserve to be punished. And I'm about to swear, so brace yourself. And I'm shit and I deserve to be treated like shit. And that was the story of my life until I worked this out. So we change the subconscious core beliefs to the positive. Because if someone has the subconscious core belief, because it's the subconscious that runs everything. Our conscious mind has been shown to run 5% of the day. And our trauma is stored in the subconscious, not in the conscious mind. But what we have to do is get the subconscious and the conscious in sync, because the little conscious mind, our client might say, I want to get well. I'm ready to get well. It's time to get well. But if the subconscious goes, no, you're dreaming. Because if you get well, you'll be out in the world. It's not safe out in the world. So I'm going to keep you sick in bed at home. Or with anxiety, not able to go out, or with depression, something. So if the subconscious is saying no, well, the little conscious mind can't do anything about it, and there will be subconscious sabotage. So in session 1, we turn off that subconscious self-sabotage so that subconscious and the conscious mind are in perfect sync, agreeing that it's safe to be well. It's time to be well. We also turn off the subconscious core beliefs, the negative ones, and replace them with positive. These subconscious core beliefs that keep patterns of thought, emotion, and behavior locked in. So we change it so that change is possible. The subconscious and conscious, it's very important no matter what process, no matter what modalities you use, whether you're a physiotherapist or a psychotherapist or a psychologist or a doctor. If you get the subconscious and conscious mind agreeing, it's safe to be well. It's time to be well. Well, then you'll get a better result no matter what you do, and you won't have the self-sabotage. So we change the subconscious core beliefs in several areas: love, health, money, and success. So even if you're a coach trying to help someone in business to be successful, if they have the subconscious core belief, it's not safe to be successful. I don't deserve to be successful. If I'm successful, I'll stand out. And it's not safe to stand out. I have to be invisible to be safe. It's not safe to be seen and heard. Well, you'll be pushing the proverbial uphill. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be a good outcome. So get the subconscious and conscious in sync. And it's like a laser beam cutting through metal. It's extraordinarily powerful. So just going back to this whiteboard. So in the first session, that's what we do. We change the subconscious core beliefs from the unhelpful to the helpful. In the session 2, we turn off the videotape loops. We take the emotional charge. Out of the past. How do we do that? We turn off those videotape loops. And the symptoms, whatever they are, disappear, whether it's chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, anxiety, depression, PTSD, they just stop. And in session 3, that's the fun bit. We create the future, because people who are stuck in anxiety, depression, etc., are not future focused. So that's what we do. We do it differently from, for example, CBT. CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which is fine, but trauma is not stored in the cognitive mind. It's stored in the subconscious, and the subconscious runs the body. That is why cognitive behavioral therapy takes a long time. Cognitive behavioral therapy aims, as we know, to change the cognitive, to change the thinking of a client, change how they think in order to change how they feel, the emotion, which will change their behavior or way of being, change their being. What TRTP does, I call it AAT, Ask About Therapy. It changes the person's experience of self, their way of being. This automatically changes how they feel, their emotions, and it automatically changes how they think. So there's no discipline required. People don't have to be hugely motivated to observe their thoughts, to observe their behaviors, to observe their feelings so that they can gain some control over them. It just happens automatically. I had a client who had extreme abusive thoughts constantly. And she was at the point where she was eating 60 to 80 Ferrero Rochers a day. That was her diet, just sugar. Drinking 2 bottles of wine and snorting half of Peru. That was her diet on a daily basis. After that first session where we changed the subconscious core beliefs, so after we just did that, she had driven over an hour to see me. She drove home and she gave me a phone call. She said, "I'm sorry for disturbing you, but I just had to tell you." And she was chuckling. I said, "What?" And she said, "All the way home, I tried to think my normal abusive, self-abusive thoughts. I tried really hard to prove that you were wrong, that this doesn't work." And I'd get halfway through a thought and I'd forget what it was. I just couldn't remember. So I'd get another thought. And with great determination, I would try and think another thought, and halfway through, I'd forget what it was. She said, this stuff works, despite me. But that's not unusual by any means. So that is how TRTP works. But how does it do it? How does it do it? Well, as we've been talking about, the trauma is stored in the subconscious, and the subconscious runs the body. Trauma is stored in the subconscious, so doesn't it make sense then to speak to the subconscious where the trauma lives? So that's what we do with TRTP. We speak to the subconscious in the language of the subconscious. And what is the language of the subconscious, the imagination. We experience it in dreams with 2 words, just imagine. The critical facility steps aside and we have access to the subconscious. And we can imagine pink and green elephants flying through the sky. And the critical mind doesn't go, oh no, that's not possible, don't think that. It just lets it be. We can imagine whatever we like. And the interesting thing is that the subconscious and the body believe what we richly imagine. Easily illustrated with a lemon. If you have a wedge of lemon and you sink your teeth into it and suck on that drippy, sour juice, I'm getting saliva response, and some of you probably are as well. My body has just responded as if I did have a lemon, but I don't. But it thinks, it believes, my body and my subconscious believes that I just sucked on a lemon. And I'll just have a sip of water to get rid of that. I do it, we don't have time today, but I generally do another exercise where if you look at your middle fingers with your hands like that, one finger will be slightly longer than the other in the middle finger. Here you can see this one on my right, your left, is longer than the other. So we put the short finger down beside our chair and imagine, stretch out that finger and imagine a little weight on it, making it longer and longer and longer. And for those who've been on other webinars and workshops, you bring up your hand and that finger is now the same length or longer than the original longer finger, because the body and the subconscious believe what we richly imagine. And this is how people imagine away tumors and disease states. It's a powerful thing. So what do we do in TRTP? We step people through various scenarios. I say to a new client, the richer you make your internal experience, the more profound will be the outcome. I can't get in your head. So if I say, suck on a lemon, really suck on that lemon till you're drooling. Not that we do lemons, but you get the idea. The body and the subconscious believe what we richly imagine. So we take our client through specific, very, very specific step by step scenarios to the point where those videotape loops are turned off. They do not relive the event at all. In fact, we don't even get a full history. We just do homework. We get the client before they come to write down the top 10 to 12 most distressing events in their life, just the age they were, the name of the event, and who was there. That's it. Because writing it all down, we don't want an essay, we don't want to hear the stories, we don't need to hear the stories. That's all the information that we need. And with that, we ask them what were the top 3 most distressing events, and we deal with those. And that's how TRTP works. And somebody has asked. So the question was, just going back over that, what was the difference between EMDR and TRTP? Everything. We don't go back to the event with TRTP. And we don't re-traumatize the client. So we just get their homework, the top 10 to 12 most distressing events, the age they were, the name of the event and who was there, and we get them to choose the top 3 most distressing events. They don't have to tell the whole story. We don't want the whole story. That's re-traumatizing. And just by stepping them through scenarios, imaginary scenarios, the body and the subconscious believe, we turn off those videotape loops. We do those 2 things that Van der Kolk and Levine say have to do to resolve trauma. We move them to an empowered position in regard to what happened, and we tell the body and the unconscious, so we go further, that it's over and I'm safe now. And we don't just work, if there's a catastrophic event, we don't just work on that, because it's the whole distress in the balloon, that event when I was 3 and 7 and 12 and 15 and 22 and 27 and 29. We have to reduce the distress in the balloon by turning off all of those. We don't just work on, the initial sensitizing event or the catastrophic event. Of course, we'll work with the catastrophic event, but when we have taken the pressure out of the balloon. So there is space there. Getting back to those to those studies on twins going to war, why does one get PTSD and one doesn't? Because one twin has had more trauma, more distressing events. There's more pressure in their balloon, if you like. And then they have these catastrophic events on top of that and they blow out into PTSD. Whereas the other twin hasn't had the same traumatic experiences before the catastrophic event. So there's room in the balloon. There's resilience because there's room in the balloon. So that's what the studies have shown. Just looking here at some of these questions. It's question time, yes. Let's take a little while here to answer some questions. So Lynette, you're saying it's how one thinks about the event afterward that perpetuates anxiety, and a suggestion that you are safe can resolve that. No, Lynette, that's not what I'm saying at all. It's not how one thinks about the event. Where TRTP comes from is from my own experience. So I had extreme PTSD and several personalities for a while, extreme complex PTSD. I was in a dreadful state. As a result, I'm the youngest of 8. I had 3 violently incestuous older brothers. I was Catholic, so there were priests. Drugged and sexually abused by a Catholic nun at 15. Then there were stalkers, violent relationships, and I worked my way up through the hierarchy of violent lunatics until I found myself with a homicidal psychopath who was into torture. And that lasted for 9 years. And at the end of that time, my body was in a terrible state. And the surgeons put me back together and said, you'll be in chronic ill health and chronic pain for the rest of your probably very short life. I did not think about what happened. I'm a very disciplined person. I did not think about what happened. I wanted to get rid of it, but it wouldn't let me. It being the feeling of I am not safe, that hypervigilance. Where's the danger coming from? Where's the danger coming? My body would never relax. I couldn't meditate. People said, meditate. I said, I can't meditate. I can't sit still. I can't close my eyes. I can't do yoga. I can't do mindfulness. It was extreme with flashbacks, etc., because that is when those videotape loops break through into the conscious mind. Flashbacks, relived experience. Those videotape loops are still there for anxiety and depression, but they don't break through into the conscious mind. So getting back to your question, it's not how one thinks about the event. I refuse to think about the events. It's those videotape loops are living in the body, in the unconscious. Even if you don't think about it, they are there and they will break through. A suggestion you are safe can resolve that. No, you have to turn off the videotape loops. Just saying you're safe, that doesn't do anything because I'm not. Everything in my body is screaming, I'm not safe. So just saying I'm safe, you're safe, doesn't do anything. You have to turn off the videotape loops. And what we do, having turned off the videotape loops, we say to the client, and everything within you knows now that it's over. And you're safe now. And every part of you that has anything to do with those events can now return to calm. Feel it. So that is the end of session 2, after we've done all the work in session 1, after we've done all the work in session 2, and we've turned off the videotape loops. Session 1, we turn to the positive, those subconscious core beliefs that are keeping patterns of thought, feeling, and behavior locked in, so that there's no sabotage. Going to session 2, where the rubber hits the road, where we turn off those videotape loops. And then after we've done all of that, then every part of you that has anything to do with that can now return to calm. Feel it. It's over. And I'm safe now. And that's what we do. How often should a person say the phrase? They never have to say it again. They don't say it. The practitioner says it, and it's never said again. They just feel it, and they are liberated from their pain. We take a client by the hand and step them through to the other side of their pain. At the end of that, it's just, and we know that they're done. I say to a new client, you'll know that you're done because you'll be able to talk about these terrible events, and they'll be boring. It'll be like, yeah, it's just boring, because there'll be no emotion there. There'll be no pain. And the symptoms of anxiety, depression, PTSD, etc., just disappear. What impact does it have with addictions? What's behind addictions? Why do we become addicted? To stop our pain. It's self-medication, whether to chemical or behavior. It's self-medication. Why? Because I'm in pain. Why am I in pain? Because of dreadfulness that's happened, that's running in my subconscious and in my body as if it's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now. That event and that event and that event and that event. The only way I can get some peace is through this substance or behavior. We have, I know a man who was on the streets at 13 as an ice addict. By the time he was in his late 20s, early 30s, he'd gone through rehab and failed 17 times. Until a psychologist at the hospital, sent him to one of our people who specializes in addictions, and they dealt with why. He was dry, he was clean, he was soon going to not be. He'd been in jail, all his friends were dead or in jail on murder charges. He said, nobody ever asked me what happened. 17 rehab stints and nobody ever asked him what happened. So we have to turn off those videotape loops, deal with the trauma, turn that off, take away the pain. And then the addiction, there's no need for it because there's no pain. I've had TRT, but Kath Liston, I have to leave to collect my sick cat from the vet. I hope your cat's going to be okay, Kath. But I've had TRTP and it totally works. I now want to learn it, but that's for another day. It's incredible. My life is richer for it. Thank you, Kath. How does TRTP compare with hypnosis? Well, let's talk about hypnosis. With 2 words, just imagine, you can stick somebody to a wall. Just imagine your hand is becoming part of the wall. Hypnosis is generally thought to be deep trance state, total relaxation. If you have a soldier, as I did, appear at my room where I worked, screaming hysterically, and he'd had many tours in Afghanistan, and he was screaming hysterically, I'm fucked, everything's fucked, you're fucked, you know how fucked up the world is. He was quite hysterically saying, you're my last stop, and if you don't help me, and if you don't fix this, if you don't fix my pain, if you don't fix what's going on inside of me, I'm going to go under a train at the end of the street. And I thought, no pressure. You don't say to that soldier, come on in and just relax all the muscles in the back of your neck. It's not going to happen. But with 2 words, you can talk to the subconscious. Just imagine. An hour and a half later, that soldier was outside, big fellow, twirling me around, kissing the top of my head. I said, yeah, Bryce, I'm happy. And yeah, I love you too, but put me down, big guy. It's not professional. Come on. That was several years ago. He's doing very well and he's back in civilian life now. And he has no signs of PTSD. I've worked with commandos, veterans, SAS veterans. And one commando described TRTP as friendly skies. Anyway, I won't go into it. That you can see an interview with Tim Thomas, that man, on the TRTP, the Richard's Trauma Pros YouTube channel. There's lots there. How does TRTP compare with hypnosis? Hypnosis is generally relaxation and a deep trance state. We don't do deep trance states with TRTP. And what do you do once you've got somebody, just say they can go into a deep trance state, and they do go into that state. It's what you do then. A lot of hypnotherapy courses teach that you get the client to relive the event. Don't do that. I didn't like it the first time. I don't want to go there again. What do you do? Here we are, Yana. Just a second. Where's it gone? What do you do when the clients can't remember the trauma? No problem at all. They don't have to remember the trauma. I've dealt with clients who can't remember anything before the age of 12. There's a reason why we can't remember. We don't have to bring back the memories. You don't have to bring back the memories. They don't have to. I won't go into how because we don't have time, but they don't have to remember. How do clients avoid making new loops? Well, you know, it's a really funny thing, but when we change the subconscious core beliefs that keep patterns of thinking, feeling, and behavior locked in, the client's pattern in their homework, because everyone's got patterns, and it might be abuse and bullying. It might be illness. It might be abandonment. Everyone who's supposed to love them abandons them, hurts them. The pattern changes. They don't have major traumatic events necessarily again. And if they do, the body recalibrates by itself without going and sitting on a mountaintop for weeks. How do you change the subconscious negative core beliefs in one session? Well, it only takes actually, Marcia, it only takes about 10 minutes to do that. Not enough time to go into it here. So do you work through imagination only? And there's also somatic work, maybe hypnosis? Imagination, just imagine. And with that, those two words, the critical facility steps aside and you have absolute access to the subconscious. And the person richly imagines. So they feel it as if it's happening. They experience it in their body, in their being, as if it's happening. In that way, it's somatic. And they're not experiencing the trauma, they're experiencing the step-by-step scenarios that are very specific and very geared to that client. And it's a very simple process, step by step by step, through these various scenarios. Is there training available? Yes. Zoid Kennedy, what a great name. There's some wonderful names here. Yes, our next intake is in February. So if you're interested, in fact, okay, let me just tell you quickly about the training. It's an 8-week program. It's part-time. It's all online. It's live online, and there's some learning that you do at your own pace by yourself online, but most of it's live. At the end of that 8 weeks, you start by doing session 1 and session 2 of TRTP with your mentor. Everyone gets a mentor that holds their hand through the 8 weeks, one of our teaching team. By the end of the 8 weeks, you don't just have information and knowledge, you have runs on the board. You work with your own clients, with your mentor holding your hand and advising you. It's a completely thorough training program. And at the end of the 8 weeks, it's not just see you later. At the end of the 8 weeks, you go into our TRTP practitioner community where there is ongoing professional development, where there's so much support. Like there's a forum where you can put a tricky case, there's my dog, a tricky case up and be advised by many, many people. There's a 1-hour video conference call each week where you can bring tricky cases, and that's where their ongoing professional development is. There's all sorts of things, as well as people meeting up in person every 6 to 8 weeks. It is warm, vibrant, generous community where egos are left at the door and it's safe. We guard that culture. And the next intake is in February. Part of it is a 3-day workshop, which is Friday the 26th to Sunday the 28th. It's all online now. So instead of people flying in from overseas, they hook up with this in this virtual world. So if you are interested in that, could you just type in interested? And what will happen is at the end of this webinar, straight after this webinar, well, maybe 10 minutes later or so, no? At the end of this webinar, you'll receive an email sometime at the end of this, after this webinar, I'm being told in the background, you'll receive an email where you can click on a link and make an appointment to have a conversation with someone here about TRTP and to see if you're a match. If you are interested, could you just type in interested and we will be in touch, and then make an appointment and see if what we are doing is a match for you and see if you're a match for us. Jane, there's not time to briefly describe what we do after Just Imagine, to turn off the video tape loop. And if I did tell you, I would be very irresponsible, because you'd go and do it without doing the training, and it's possible you could re-traumatize someone very, very badly with dreadful consequences. So I won't tell you. I'm sorry, Jane, besides the fact that there's no time to do that. Okay, it's 6:30, just a couple of little things here. Thanks, Bernadette. What if the client can't imagine what life looks like without being traumatized? It's not a problem. We get around that. And I won't go into it, but we get around that. Do you think practicing active visualization, rich imagining prior to therapy might be beneficial in producing a better outcome on the day of therapy? No, Julie, no. They just come along and we connect with the client heart to heart, soul to soul, and say, I've got you. You're safe. All you need to do is follow my directions and throw yourself in. And you know, it's part of the cure to wish to be cured. And I will lead you to the other side of your pain. Interested. Thank you. Are only accredited counselors and psychologists allowed to? No, we have nurses, we have paramedics, we have hypnotherapists, we have midwives, we have GPs, we have anaesthetists. Why anaesthetists? Because they specialize in pain. And with chronic pain, TRT, when the body is healed and the doctors say there's no reason for the pain, there should not be pain. And there's a lot of people like that. We just turn off the videotape loop because the person has this videotape loop of their accident or their surgery. It's happening now, it's happening now, it's happening now. All you have to do is turn that off and the pain miraculously disappears. I'm just looking for any. Is there a register of practitioners so I can experience TRTP in person? Yes, Jane. If you go to therichards.traumaprocess.com, therichards.traumaprocess.com, and click on find a practitioner, there are practitioners there that you can find. Hi, Mari. Thank you. Interested, already inquired. Oh, that's great. See, let me just go down here, see if there's any more questions, but there we are. I've already spoken with. Thanks, Yana. Okay. Can you run the treatment over telehealth? Great question there. TRTP is just as effective online as it is face-to-face. The practitioner has a headset and mic, and the client has a headset and mic. And for a lot of this, they've got the client has their eyes closed, and we get right in their head. They have only one sense available, their hearing, and it's a very close experience. I actually prefer online to face-to-face because I get closer in a way to the client. So on that note, we'll finish off. And you will be receiving, yes, Kim Boyd, sorry. Have you worked with clients who have schizophrenia? Yes. Aldo Donato specializes in schizophrenia and has the most extraordinary outcomes with schizophrenia. We must go. It's 3 minutes past the hour. When you receive that email, it will have a link to making an appointment for a Q&A session, we call them. You can ask questions and we'll answer them. 20 minutes conversation. For those who are watching this after the webinar, you can go to the website, therichards.traumaprocess.com, and on each page, at the top of the page, there's a little band across the page that says, make a Q&A session booking for a 20-minute appointment. Go there, there'll be a calendar. Click in the best time for you and someone will ring you for a lovely conversation. So there's my dog going by again. So good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me today, and go well in all you do. Go gently. Thank you and goodbye.